Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Dan Freeman with American Libraries Live. We are glad to have you here today for our broadcast, High School Degrees in the Library. Really happy to have our audience here in our panel. I hope everyone finds this event really useful. It's exciting to explore a unique topic. We're usually a little more general, so I think this is going to be a really good discussion today. Before we begin, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, Gale Cengage. Gale Cengage runs a program called the Career Online High School. The Career Online High School is an 18-credit vocation-based high school completion program, which allows your library to offer accredited high school diplomas and career certificates. You can choose from 8 high-demand, high-growth fields to adult learners. Gale provides extensive training, implementation, and student recruitment support to prepare your library to deliver the Career Online High School to the adults in your community. And 2 of our panelists are actually participants. Their libraries are participants in the Career Online High School program. So let me start by introducing our panel. Let me start with Jasmine Africawala Kallenberg. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here today. Jasmine's the Adult Services Administrator at the Dallas Public Library. I want to introduce Kathy Crosswaite. Welcome, Kathy.
Hello.
And Kathy is the Programming and Partnerships Coordinator at the Sacramento Public Library. And finally, David LaCrone. Welcome, David.
Hi, Dan. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. And David is the Digital Branch Manager at the Kansas City, Missouri Public Library. Had to make that distinction when I connected with David. Really glad to have you all here today, and I'm just going to sort of be the discussion leader. You guys are the subject experts, so I'll let you do most of the talking. But I just want to start by asking everyone, because I'm sure a lot of people in our audience are, sort of at the beginning point, or they're investigating getting involved with the sort of high school programs that everyone here is involved with. Can you just tell us a bit about your job and how your library acts as a service provider or a partner to high school students? And Kathy, why don't we start with you?
Okay, great. Well, I'm with Sacramento Public Library. We have 28 branches and 2 bookmobiles. And I am the Programming and Partnership Coordinator, but before I was promoted to this position, I was the Volunteer Services Coordinator. And just through a little bit of a fluke, and because I happened to be able to launch programs fairly well, they saw this opportunity with Career Online High School and really wanted to participate. So they gave me the opportunity to be the lead on it. So we brought Career Online High School into our community through a grant, and we were the 2nd library in the nation to launch this. So we learned from Los Angeles, which was the first, and through our experiences, we've been able to help other libraries launch it as well. So we're in our 2nd year, and we are loving what this program is doing for our community.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Jasmine, why don't you tell us about your program and your background?
All right. Well, I'm Adult Services Administrator for the Dallas Public Library. That's a title that's been newer to me for the last 2 years. I did found our literacy programs here at the library back in 2012. And our programs prior to that were through partnerships from the school district, who received federal dollars to support adult education classes. And at that point, they restructured their programs, and so our library customers kept expecting us to offer these classes. They didn't know the difference. So at that point, we've actually helped build a literacy coalition here in the Dallas area, and we're able to establish volunteer-led adult education classes at the library.
All right, sounds great. And last but not least, David, we'll move on to you.
Great, thanks. My title is Digital Branch Manager. So unlike my 2 co-panelists, I come more from the digital side of things as opposed to the adult programming or education side of things. So in that role, I oversee the provision of all the library's online and digital services, website, digital history projects, e-content, that kind of thing. But I was tapped to lead the Career Online High School implementation at Kansas City Public last year, and we have only been live with the program since January. So we are pretty new to the program. I think we evaluated it and waffled back and forth for probably a year before we pulled the trigger, and we've been extremely pleased with how things have worked out so far.
All right, thanks, David. And I want to go over something I meant to mention at the beginning, but for everyone viewing out there, we do have a live chat space on our webpage. We also have a Twitter hashtag ALLive, 2 L's, not alive. And to our audience, we really want you to be part of the conversation here. So if you have questions, comments, things that you want to hear about, let us know and we'll bring them into the conversation, because it's really important to us that this is an interactive event. And the other thing I wanted to mention, you probably noticed by our panelists and where they work, our panel definitely does skew big city, but we're really making an effort to try to make our discussion as scalable as possible, because we realize that this could apply to libraries of almost any size. So we're working on doing that. If you feel like we're not, or you feel like we're sort of having the big city conversation, let us know in the chat space or on Twitter, and we'll try to speak to your concerns, because that is really important to us today. So moving on, I just want to ask everybody, can you tell me about how you feel what you offer at your library is unique, both generally and how you feel it's different from what the other panelists described? And David, you were last time, so why don't we start with you this time?
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to actually hearing more about what the other panelists have going on at their libraries. But what I understand about our Career Online High School program is that it's unique in the sense that it's a collaboration between us, the Kansas City Public Library, another regional library system, Mid-Continent Public Library, and a local nonprofit, Literacy Kansas City. And I believe Literacy Kansas City actually initiated the conversation about offering it jointly, and it really has been an interesting way to roll it out, because we're able to share not only the cost, but the kind of management and oversight and the kind of brain space and time that it takes to run something like this. It's actually proven to be fairly low maintenance once it got up and running. It also provides, because of that partnership, an interesting conduit for applicants, potential students. So we have feelers way out in the communities, including a number of rural areas where Mid-Continent has a number of branches. And so we're able to really tap into people all over the metropolitan area.
All right, and Kathy, you're also running the Career Online High School program. So how do you feel what you're doing is different from what David is doing?
Well, well, I don't know. Okay, I'm not going to totally speak on a strict comparison with what David's doing, if that's fair. So.
Very fair.
Okay, great. We have the full lineup of adult literacy services that we had already had established in Sacramento. So we work with the basic learners, the GED prep, and ESL. And we have an adult literacy team that offers that, where they work with a volunteer tutor base and provide all the books and do the whole 9 yards. We have now that we're in our second year with Career Online High School, we were able to incorporate Career Online High School into their department, even though I still oversee it. So now we're able to offer that full continuum of adult education, and really be able, when someone comes in to say, I need this service, we're able to offer an assessment and truly place them where they will be best served. So we're very fortunate in that when we first started this program, we did it as an individual library with, and the way we're set up, a library system, I should say, the way we're set up, our administration, I have to admit, is awesome. And I do not feel red tape here. So when I need something done, I can go straight to the person who needs to make that decision right away. So I know that I'm very fortunate that way. The second year, Greg Lucas, the state librarian here in California, really saw the impact this program was making on the libraries that had launched it. And he took it upon himself to really take part in the process by negotiating with Gail Cengage and buying a package of scholarships that he could then offer through the state library to libraries that might not have the funding needed to offer, many scholarships like we could. So there are, in speaking to your first concern about, that we're representing the large urban libraries, there are a lot of small libraries in California that are managing to start this up because of what the state library has done, and I'm acting as a mentor to a lot of those people that are starting it. So what we're able to do for our community is really offer that continuum of services, with that high school diploma being really that best option for someone who is intelligent and just missed out on an opportunity when they were a teenager.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And Jasmine, why don't you tell us about how things are different in Dallas, other than that everything is bigger because it's in Texas?
It's true, though, it is. So we do not subscribe to Career Online High School. We actually started our GED program back in 2012. I think that was it predates a little bit Gail Cengage getting involved with Career Online High School. And we have established a really strong program through training volunteers and working with our literacy partners here in the Dallas area to learn best practices in training those volunteers. And so we do have staff, paid permanent staff, who coordinate those volunteers. That is library staff, and they are also the ones that monitor sort of the assessment process, the outcomes measurements, the impact storytelling, and it really gives us an opportunity to be really direct in the program versus more traditional library partnerships, where you bring in a nonprofit in and you host them in your facility. That's been able to expand. We offer that at 6 different locations in English. And we've been able to expand that to offering an official GED testing center here in our main library. And through a corporate sponsor, Atmos Energy, which is a natural gas provider here in this region, we've been able to offer the official testing for free to anyone who is eligible and is ready to test. So, and I said eligible, but we actually make it very simple. If they show on a practice test that they're ready to test, then we will pay for that test. And here in Texas, the costs do vary by state. Here in Texas, the cost is about $33.75 per subject test, which adds up to $135 for the full battery. I know that for a long time GED was the only game in town, but for the state of Texas, we've actually recently approved the additional 2 high school equivalency tests. So that is a big difference, I guess, between our program and the Career Online High School. The Career Online High School provides them in a nationally accredited high school diploma. So they're actually receiving credits. For us, we are providing preparation classes for the high school equivalency, and that high school equivalency is accredited through our State Board of Education. And so, that varies by state which tests, and, I know that our listeners and viewers are coming from all across the country, and I encourage you to stay on top of some of the test changes happening in your state as your State Boards of Education vote to either renew. I know there's been some big changes to the GED test in terms of its popularity and looking into some other options for that testing.
All right. And I want to stick with you, Jasmine, although this question's open to everybody else as well. You were talking about public funds and how much things cost. And we had a really good question from Amber in the chat space. She asked, have you had any issues with giving out scholarships? Is that seen as a gift of public funds? And have there been any complaints about that?
Because it's not public funds. That scholarship fund is a private fund set up by Atmos Energy through our friends of the Dallas Public Library, and so their explicit intention for those funds is to offset the cost of a test taker. So we are fulfilling our donors' wish by making sure that that's very accessible. And I will say that we really pride the accessibility of our program. We make it very easy to enroll in our program. In addition to in-person classes, we also offer GED Academy, which is a software provided through Essential Education. And it does offer self-paced modules. It is adaptive based on pre-assessment so that it's actually tailoring an interactive modules to help the student become ready for the test. And so we do have an online option, but we find that a lot of our students are lower level, and statistically that's also true. I know here in the Dallas area we look at about 25% of our population 25 and over who do not have high school diplomas or equivalencies. Nationally, adult education providers are barely reaching 5% of the people in need. So I'm hoping that we get some more questions on scalability and hoping that some other libraries feel like they can help decrease the unmet need rather, because right now it's at 95% across the country. And if libraries could really work together, whether through partnerships or through providers like Gale Cengage, or through volunteers and running their own programs, I think libraries could really make a dent in that number.
Yeah, and we had just a clarification. Someone wanted to know was it your friends group that solicited the sponsorship of the program? Was that how that came about?
Yes and no. We have a long-standing relationship with Atmos Energy, and they actually helped fund. We have a children's-only library and a shopping center. They helped fund that. That predates this. They've also helped fund an interactive discovery wall, and they helped fund an actual literacy center that offers classes 6 days a week. So they were already funding us in different capacities, and they saw this as a really great opportunity. And it was a joint effort between our Dallas Public Library director and our executive director of the Friends of Dallas Public Library.
All right, thanks. And David, we'll move on to you, but again,
Okay.
This is a question for everybody. What can you tell us about the audience you serve with the program, audience or audiences?
Sure.
Who's your population? What's their age? What's their background?
The interesting thing about Career Online High School is that it's really set up to be a service for, as Kathy mentioned earlier, slightly older people who slipped through the cracks or dropped out or otherwise had life circumstances get in the way and cause them to leave high school. That's the sweet spot right there. So ages 19 and up is our target audience for Career Online High School. It tends, obviously, to be a very, they tend to have very different characteristics than quote-unquote traditional high school students. They're typically already engaged in the workforce, often are engaged in childcare, have different constraints on their time, and we're still kind of feeling out what the kind of typical student is because we're still fairly new, but yeah, some definite trends are emerging. But I would say we're talking about adult learners who are very busy.
Kathy, do you feel like that's the case for you as well?
Very much so, and I'm actually doing a webinar on just this topic later today. But so I've had time to think about what the average Career Online High School student looks like, and just as Dave said, these are busy individuals, and they are motivated individuals. They are computer literate. These are not the people that that were in special education in high school, and that was a struggle. These are people that willingly talk about what their favorite subject was in high school, even though their family was split apart and they fell into a gang or whatever happened in their life. They can pull out that subject that excited them. So basically, these people are they're self-motivated, they're computer literate, they're busy, and most importantly, they're really very intelligent. But and ready to make that next step to meet their goals. So it's kind of that there's a niche here that Career Online High School really fills that the GED basic learning and ESL for the most part don't. So it's that continuum.
Okay, and I want to, Jasmine, I want to hear your answer to the same question, but I do just want to bring in this question's coming up in the chat space a bunch. People are, I'll just sort of merge this into one question, but the questions are, is your program offered in English only? Is Career Online High School also for an ESL population? I'll just throw that out since it's sort of a yes or no question to everybody.
I'll take it. Career Online High School is only available in English, and I'm going to say now, because they are very forward-thinking people at Career Online High School, and I know that Dr. Liebman understands what a success this is and how many more people it can help. So they're based in Florida, so I'm sure that Spanish is something that they will consider at some point, but they are growing by leaps and bounds. So that's, I'm sure, in a strategic plan somewhere, but not right now.
And is that the case at your library, Jasmine?
Yes, we offer our classes predominantly in English. We do have 6 locations that offer English GED, but we do have 2 literacy centers that we operate that offer GED in Spanish, and then GED Academy is in English only.
Okay, and that's a good segue for you to talk about the population you serve as well, because we want to hear a little more about that.
So anyone who's sort of familiar with the adult education world, which if you're not, I really strongly encourage every librarian who's interested in this topic to go meet with the literacy providers in their community, to attend conferences locally or nationally that address the topic of adult education, because what we know about our adult learners is that they are busy, and because of that, we have high attrition. So I would say the average adult education retention rate is about 50 to 60%. And because of that, we try to be really, really thoughtful about the funding that we put towards the program and how we do it sort of on a by-student basis. Using volunteers really helps us to not really incur a loss when we have students dropping out, and we know for a fact that students are dropping out because they are adults with life happenings, and so yeah, predominantly we serve low to intermediate level adults, 18 and over. For most of them, English is their native language. We do offer English as a second language classes, which is a whole other webinar, and they, their biggest obstacles tend to be motivation, and then other situational obstacles like childcare, which unfortunately we're not able to provide. But in addition to those 6 locations plus the 2 literacy centers, we do offer GED preparation through partnerships at 4 other libraries. So we're able to expand beyond our own internal capacity by using partners. I will say, different funding streams require different documentation, and so for us, we are able to get rid of sort of some of those institutional boundaries of the types of things that didn't work for that adult learner to begin with, by offering it through the library as a very publicly trusted entity, a very accessible entity, versus some of these literacy providers who are in only 1 location. For Dallas, we're in 29 locations, and so we're just more accessible in the neighborhoods where people live, which we know is a huge factor for most adult learners, especially with transportation issues. And so we really pride ourselves in making it easy to sign up for our classes and letting people decide whether they are going to stick it out or not. We call it sort of the self-selection process, because as a library, I feel like one of the most important things we do is just open access to resources. We might have 50 people show up to a GED registration, and we just make sure that we're able to hit on fraud prevention. I don't know about in the different cities, but one of the reasons we opted out of Career Online High School was we have a huge problem here in the area of these sort of storefront high school diploma rings, and there's also some very misleading online high school that aren't accredited online, and so we knew it would just blur the lines and really confuse some of our students. And so we work really closely with our Literacy Coalition to make sure that people understand what's legitimate and what's not, and even if they don't come back to our class after that registration, they at least have that information that will hopefully prevent them from becoming a victim to fraud.
All right.
Dan, can I speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that we found was this whole, people were going online to get their education and then finding out at the very wrong time that they had just thrown their money away. And one of our first students actually had that happen to him, and he didn't find out that it was a fraudulent high school diploma until he was going for a job, and they actually checked. And that was when he really was hitting rock bottom, and he applied to our GED program, and it was the program manager of our adult literacy department that came over to me and said, you know what, I think this guy will be perfect for the high school diploma program you're introducing. And one of the reasons that he came to the library and trusted us with this program is because of all of that feel-good stuff that goes on when people think of the public library. So, Jasmine, we also were dealing with the bad take of online education, but because people already trust the public library, which is one of the reasons why Gail Cengage really looked at public libraries to introduce this program. We don't have that issue because people know that if it's being offered through the library, we have done due diligence to make sure that it is above board. So, but we do have a couple people that did experience that and came through, and it makes them even think the library is that much more awesome, because they're able to do this without worry.
We've actually had that same experience in Kansas City already. We had
wow.
someone who was already ensconced in a job with a fake high school degree, and came to us because she was in danger of losing her job. So we're already seeing that same dynamic at work here.
Yeah, and as we're talking about this, there's a really logical question, and we didn't talk about this in our preparation for this discussion, and we definitely missed a major point here. So I'm glad Margaret on Twitter asked this. And David, we'll start with you here. How do you market your program? How do you get the word out?
It's interesting. We haven't done really hardcore marketing other than our initial unveiling, and actually Gail Cengage helped a lot with that promotional plan. There was a whole 6-week course of getting us set up on managing the program, which involved the marketing people at each of the partner organizations. And so that was everything from making sure you have the right logos to a press release template, to some kind of web graphics you can put up with testimonials. They really had a lot of resources for marketing the program. We started out with an in-person kind of announcement where we invited all of the sort of social service providers in the area who might be tapped into the populations who'd be interested in this. We invited them to the library, for coffee and cookies and a walkthrough of what Career Online High School was. And from there, there's been a steady trickle of people that are largely being funneled in through these nonprofits and service providers that are just basically directing them to one of the library sites and onto the Career Online High School platform. So it's really kind of running itself at this point. With Literacy KC also being one of our partners, they're offering Career Online High School as sort of the end of their continuum of service, their continuum. So it starts with basic literacy, goes up to digital literacy, and at the end of it, they want to be able to provide their high-performing students with the high school degree. So it's really been kind of word of mouth through these service providers.
And Kathy, did you go through the same training that Dave did?
No, I think that I can boldly say that since, again, we were the second library in the nation, I think that it was more of a partnership with Gail, and that we sort of figured things out together. They, of course, did the lead, but our marketing team really got in there and worked things out, because we're we really like our branding. So our marketing team made sure that we were very much front and center with this Gail Cengage product. And so by the time they were through with us, they were able to take all of those, elements of what we had done together and then put that into the training that they now are taking to everyone else. So we did things a little bit differently, but pretty much the same thing. So we launched July 1st or 15th, something like that, of 2014. And there was a big push. It was our director went out and talked to everyone. And one of the things I did was really focus on getting all of our staff on board with what this really meant to our communities and what a game changer it was. So I did a lot of talking and a lot of meetings, and we got great marketing pieces out there, and truly that was our biggest marketing push, was making sure that our staff could readily talk about it to people that were interested. They already knew about adult literacy, but they weren't real clear on how we could do this whole high school diploma thing, and wasn't really a diploma. So I made sure they had what they needed to explain it. And then one of the coolest things I think we did is that we actually did purchase ads on the inside of buses that went around our area. And the great thing about bus ads is that they don't come down until they're replaced with another ad. And so even though we purchased 3 months of ad time on the buses, we had people still commenting that they saw it like a year later. So that was a good way for us to spend some of the money we had to do that. But right now, going into our second year, we don't do anything. We just answer the emails and get them their prerequisite, and off they go. So this is second year. It's a whole different ballgame for us. Very hands-off, very limited staff time involved. It's very, I'm reaping the benefits. I think it's great.
That's great, yeah. And Jasmine, I can tell you're ready to pounce with your story.
Come on.
Well, we don't have a marketing team. I like that Kathy said she has a marketing team.
For the whole system, not just for Career Online High School, for the whole library system.
We're a system too of 29 locations, and we do not have a marketing team. So I hope some people watching can relate to that. But we have no marketing budget. And honestly, you'll hear this from me if I'm ever on one of these things again. I feel like one of the successful, one of the things that helped make these programs successful is that we really were strategic about which locations we offered the program in, and so it wasn't just, statistically it shows that there's a great need in this community. We were also looking at where is the demand. So I call that the intersection of need and demand is sort of the sweet spot of where to locate your programs, and that has helped us to be successful with limited to no marketing. Word of mouth, I think any marketer will still tell you that word of mouth is still the most effective way of marketing your program, and if libraries are doing something right for their community, the word will spread for you. I think that that can be difficult in certain locations, again, where there is great need, but there is not great demand. And we do have a really strong literacy coalition here who shares information so that they can pass that on to their wait list or to students who aren't interested in attending their class because of the schedule or because of the location. So I do think that sharing that information among other providers really helps to get the word out to people seeking those services. But I will say, even social media, we do have a social media person who does a million other things, but we do promote it that way. I can't really say that's been one of the key successes. I don't know that it's been that effective. I would say word of mouth has been by far the most successful way of marketing our program.
Yeah, and we do have other people in the chat space saying they have no marketing department either.
Okay.
You're not alone. And other people saying it seems like social media would be a good marketing tool for a low budget. So, so our conversation's been really positive so far, and that's great. But I do want to talk about challenges because you're going to see plenty of those, I'm sure, with anything you do. So, David, we'll start with you. What have been the biggest challenges you've faced?
Well, again, we're fairly new, so I'm fortunate to have not encountered anything huge yet. I will say that one thing that has come up with the applicants pool And for those unfamiliar with the process of Career Online High School, it sort of, after you take a prerequisite course, you wind up having an interview with an in-person team at one of our locations. And it's there you really get to feel the applicant out. And we are encountering that the majority of our applicants lack an internet connection in the home. And that is obviously a huge obstacle for an online high school program. And it got to the point where the interview team, expressed concerns to me and the others in the oversight group that, if lack of a home connection is, the only reason we're going to deny someone access into the program, if they're otherwise perfectly capable, have the time, the inclination, and that's really not a good thing. And these are folks who, like Kathy said, have digital skills. They have access to a computer at work or the library. Maybe they have a device at home, but just can't afford to keep that stable connection.
Okay.
So we're working on that with a potential hotspot lending program, where we would give a hotspot with unlimited data and a laptop to students who are accepted into the program, but we have not rolled that out yet.
All right, Kathy, what about you?
Challenges. I would say that truly just working with the adult demographic is can be a little bit like herding cats, and you have to understand that not even though they sit down at that interview and they are telling you everything you want to hear, there's a chance that they are not going to embrace the opportunity, even though they are showing that they're going to do that. So you have to be willing, you have to be ready and willing to take that risk. And the only thing that we can really do, it's like Jasmine was saying with the GED centers and just adult education in general. There's a high attrition. These are busy people. They've got kids. They've got work. They've got families. So for me, the challenge is how to truly keep these people engaged in such an incredible opportunity. And I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but I'm not the one changing the diapers and running to my second job, figuring out how to pay the mortgage. So what we can do as library workers is that Dave was saying about the hotspot situation and providing internet in their home. We do have computers, but we've got to convince them that that's a good thing to come to the library to work on. So one thing that we can do is, take away all the restrictions that we normally put on, patrons when they come in to use a laptop. No, you don't get it for just 2 hours. You can have it all day long to work on your Career Online High School. But again, it's that challenge. And even though these people are highly motivated, there's still that level of communication that you really have to encourage, because we did have one student that we found out about at one of our quarterly meetings, which again, part of that trying to bring them together as a group, almost like a little fraternity sorority thing where it's like, hey, we're all part of this thing, let's get together and talk about what's really bothering us or what's a success. But it wasn't until we met this person and she was 2 months from her deadline to finish that she explained that they couldn't afford internet in their home. And so it's like, why didn't you tell me earlier? We have things that can help you out. So that, for me, is the biggest challenge, is reminding them that we are the resource. Everyone involved in the program, from our adult literacy team to me, to Gail Cengage, to the academic coaches that come with the scholarship at Career Online High School, that we're all human beings and we are all here to help. And so it takes a while for this demographic to really get that, and that's still a challenge for me, is really driving that home, that all it takes is a phone call or an email and we can start working on alternatives if necessary.
All right, thanks, Kathy. And Jasmine, what about your challenges?
So even though our program is not computer-based, the testing currently is. So, for a lot of our students, they have low digital literacy skills, and we really focus on the library staff taking on computer assistance and one-on-one assistance, as well as small group or group instruction for computer classes, while our volunteers in our literacy department really focuses on content and really trying to make sure that that our students have the content knowledge. I will say that according to GED Testing Service, the average GED test taker waits till they're 10 years out since they've dropped out of high school. So it's an average of 10 years out of high school that they return to try to test. So you can only imagine some of the barriers that happen and the sort of emotional collateral that happens over 10 years of regret. Most of them are motivated by having their own children and wanting to be a good role model, but then also for employment. I will say that capacity is a challenge for us. We have one full-time literacy coordinator dedicated to GED programs, and just to give you an idea, that person's paid somewhere between a librarian salary and our library associate salary. So we're able to kind of get sort of an in-between, and I don't know what the library associate level would be for some of you guys, but that's just the bachelor's degree requirement. And I work my team to death. So they, just to give you an idea, that one person is, for the most part, managing about 50 volunteers a semester, and we serve about 300 students in English GED, 200 in Spanish GED, and 300 through our online GED Academy a year. So, we have some capacity. We've been able to expand our team with some office support and that kind of thing that helps. But I know that a lot of libraries watching will have some capacity issues as well. But you can be very efficient. And but I will say that, just to give you an example, when we first started our literacy programs, we had a volunteer who was very committed to meeting with students in a more northern area of the city, and we found that was one of the areas where there was a need, but the demand was not there. We set her up with 10 students, and she worked with those 10 students for an entire year. Now, she met with them out at restaurants. This was of her own accord, not on behalf of the library. She met with them, she texted them, she hounded them. Some of them disappeared for months, and they then resurrected after months, and she was able to work with them again. After a full year of working with all 10 of them completed their GED. So that's 100% completion rate if you can have the time for relationship building. So the reason I bring that up is certainly one of the challenges is if you are trying to either working through partnerships or working at a high capacity, relationship building is essential to success in the program for adult learners, and you may not have the time to really dedicate to that.
All right. Well, we're more than 2/3 of the way through, so I wanted to make sure we've gotten a lot of practical information already, I think, but I know a lot of people in our audience are sort of at the beginning and looking to get started. So, Kathy, I'll start with you on this one, but what advice would you give to librarians who want to get started with this type of program? What are the first steps they should take?
I think one of the first steps would be to contact other libraries that are in the program. There are all different sized libraries involved, and getting firsthand experience from them is really going to help pave the way. I know I've got 3 emails sitting in my inbox right now from all over the country for people that just want, kind of an idea of what they're about to get into, pros and cons, etc. So that's kind of a daily thing for me, is talking to people about our experience and what I've heard from other people. The other thing is to really have an honest chat with Gale Cengage about how it could work with their system and what are going to be some of the best ways to do it. And I know in my experience, Gale Cengage has been nothing but supportive, and more importantly, the people at Career Online High School, I mean, the principal, the academic coach, they are right there and ready. I mean, our academic coach, she is the academic coach for all of our students, and the academic coach comes into play when that student, after the interview, you've passed them on to continue into part 2 for that final qualification process. Once they meet the academic coach, it's amazing. Talk about building a relationship. These people, I mean, Kim, the academic coach, she will contact us to let us know if there are, family issues going on with the student or if they need additional help. So that way, in case they aren't contacting us, she's letting us know. So there's just a lot of support in there. But for that first step, I honestly, just having those conversations, I think, is going to be the best thing. And know that it has to be part of an adult education slash literacy component that your library is hopefully already providing.
All right. And David, it sounds like you're less removed from that first step than everybody else. So why don't you tell us your advice?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of getting something started like Career Online High School, it's important to be upfront and clear and proactive with the point that you are not trying to replace or supplant the traditional local school district. That is a question that when people come to me and ask me from other libraries about our experiences, we were fortunate to have a very strong tie to our local school district. But I think that there are other providers out there in the literacy and lifelong education, lifelong learning fields that could potentially feel like you're stepping on their toes. And I think, one of the first things you do when ramping up a program like COHS is getting those people together, opening lines of communication, and saying, hey, where can this plug into that continuum of services that are provided all over the community? And then you find you might have formal partners there. And that's what happened with us, is that our local literacy organization said, hey, let's partner on this, because we all have, it fits into each one of our missions. So.
All right. Jasmine, over to you.
All right, so advice. This is doable. This is what librarians are intended to do in the next century. And ALA agrees with me. They've put together adult literacy through libraries and action agenda. You can get it. It's a partnership with Pro Literacy. And this gives actually some really concrete ways that your library can get more active in providing literacy programs through partnerships or through coalition building, and so you're not alone in trying to achieve it. But I will say, I'm a big proponent for the library being a direct service provider, because I do find it, especially in my experiences, to be a more sustainable model. And I do believe that our customer base, they don't know the difference when they come into our library, whether it's a partner providing a program or whether it's a library. They assume it's the library. We're going to the library classes, which is great. It's great. It's really an opportunity to reach some underserved non-library users, their family members, their friends. We have multiple people join our program, graduate, and then their sibling or husband or father is enrolled in the program the next semester. It's just a really great way to build grassroots support for the library. And our approach is certainly scalable. We work with other libraries here in the Dallas area who, they have one coordinator that might be their adult services person, and they are coordinating those volunteers to do one-on-one tutoring or small group. There are people out there. Volunteers are another great population to engage as people who understand the value of library. I'm a firm believer that volunteers can have, there's a give and take relationship, right? And so there's certainly a group of the population who may not understand what they have to take from the library, but they can certainly understand what they have to give back to the library and to their community. And we find that most of our volunteers are young professionals, millennials, and as well as our baby boomers and people who've retired. So there are people who want to have a meaningful relationship with the library. They just don't know how, and so it's another way to engage them, as well as provide such a valuable service. I know that in our strategic planning process, the concepts of workforce and economic development keep coming back up. This is one of the easiest and best ways for libraries to prove that they have a direct impact on workforce development and on economic development. And I will say that just to give you an idea of what we spend per student, the national average for a literacy provider is $800 per student. For most community-based programs, you're looking at under $200. And that's if you're really breaking out a person's salary and really thinking about it in those terms. And in my research, Gale Cengage Career Online High School runs you about $1,000 to $1,200 per student. So I think that you have options to do it at a low cost, especially if you're trying to pitch this to your director, or if you are a director watching right now, that you can do this low cost, high impact. Another big thing I would mention is that there have been changes to the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, commonly referred to as WIOA. And so there's a lot of opportunity for libraries to partner with their workforce one-stops in their community to make some of the literacy and basic skills attainment aspects of that act come to life through their community, and it may not cost them anything.
All right. Well, as we work our way towards the end here, I want to ask just open question to everybody. Well, I guess I'll have to start with somebody here, but so I'll start with you, David. Dave, since you're new, how has your program been perceived by the community? And by community, I mean your community, but also your library administration, your colleagues. How have people reacted?
It's really been extremely positive. We had a little bit of pushback in the beginning. I wouldn't even really say pushback, but because of the complicated landscape of diploma mills and all of that, I mean, we did just have to answer a lot of questions and assure people that this was on the up and up, because a lot of folks, including people who are employed by the library or on the board or in the community, have had it's affected them or someone they know. So, but other than that sort of communication piece that's had to happen, our staff is really enthused about it. Our youth services staff, our education liaisons, our outreach staff are all kind of at the table and helping out. And we have our director out there in the community talking this up every chance he gets. So, so far so good.
And Kathy, how about you?
Well, I have a few comments, Dan, because I just want to go back to a little bit of what Jasmine was talking about. So, well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that, yes, adult literacy programs, that they do all of that and more. And this is just an addition to, but I did want to address the cost that you brought up, because I know with our adult literacy program, we have 2 full-time staff people, and you have to provide all of the workbooks, and you have to do all of the training of those, the wonderful army of volunteers that do the tutoring for all of the basic learners and ESL and GED people. All of that combined is, for us at least, costs a heck of a lot more than $200 to $800 per student, because we have a lot of people going through the program. So in comparison, for that $1,000 to $1,200 that the scholarship entails, you get the entire curriculum that is constantly updated, the fully accredited portion of the high school diploma, and you get not only an academic coach that is with the student during the entire process, but you also have access to tutors and and the whole support team from the library. So there is that dollar value on the scholarship, but within that dollar value you get a whole lot of support, and you don't have to spend much staff time. I mean, right now I'm thinking maximum our staff spends, outside of something like this, about 8 hours a week on that program, and that's a generous amount of time. So I did want to speak to the cost level, because there are many, many, many benefits that you get within that scholarship dollar. And then now I'm going to forget the question, because I really wanted to address that.
The question was on how your program's been perceived by your community and by your administration.
Okay, yeah, now I remember. So one of the cool things about this is that it has really put the library back on the charts. I mean, you say, oh, did you know your library can offer you the opportunity to earn a high school diploma? And they automatically go, oh, yeah, I knew about the GED. You say, no, 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 not GED. I'm talking about a high school diploma. And they just, it's like they go back in their tracks and they can't believe it. And how is that possible? So if nothing else, it starts that wonderful conversation with people about everything that the library does. But on top of that, they see that we are really taking a stance on bringing education, becoming that education partner in our community. And going back to what Dave said about the schools, there is a very significant reason why this program, we only offer it to those that are 19 years and older, so that the school districts do not take it as, why are you kind of poaching on our students? So there are some definite aspects in there. The other thing that I just really enjoy about offering this program, right now there is a lot of talk about program outcomes as opposed to program outputs. And as librarians, we love statistics, we love gathering numbers on anything and everything. So there are still those outputs for this program, but the outcomes are so significant and so clearly defined, because to truly measure a program, you want to look at, has it changed an attitude? Has it built a skill? Has it changed behavior? Has more knowledge been gained? And has a person's status been changed? And the Career Online High School program, by earning a diploma, it changes attitude about the library. It gives them a skill because they're also getting a career certificate with it. And a lot of people in our program have used that certificate to get a job. It obviously changes their knowledge base because they're in a scholastic program with accredited curriculum. But more importantly, it's changed their status. They are now high school graduates, and 70%, and this holds true for our program too, if not a higher percentage, automatically matriculate into college. I mean, at first they're doing it for their kids, they're doing it for their mom, they're doing it for these different reasons. But I tell you what, across the board, these people are saying within 4 months of being in the program, they're like, okay, I'm starting to look into post-secondary. They don't say post-secondary. I want to go to college. I want to go to a training school. I am ready to go. This is awesome. Because when they start with that career certificate, all of a sudden learning isn't that big dark wall that they couldn't get over. It's really pleasant. They're enjoying the process. So that's what I think this program brings. Sorry, a little passionate. I like it.
I think we all like it. And Jasmine, you get the last word today.
Oh goodness. Well, I will say that I think that's what I think that's what all sort of proactive adult literacy programs bring. And regardless of whether it's Career Online High School or GED, like I said, I think it's a matter of each library considering what's within their budget, what's within their reach, what's within their capacity, and I think that overall, this is a wonderful conversation because I think it really lends to librarians and libraries being more proactive literacy providers to the community and changing that perception so that we're really able to document how we're changing people's lives. I'd say about 75 to 80% of all of our GED graduates also enroll into post-secondary education after completing their GED. So I don't think that that's unique to Career Online High School. I know that here we have great support from our council. We invite them to our graduation ceremonies, and they're really able to see that come to life. It really has helped us restore our budget the past 2 years to our pre-2008 pre-recession days, partially because we've been really able to show what direct impact the library has on the community, and it teaches us how to track outcomes, how to create assessments, and how to track progress and show impact, which I know that IMLS and ALA and PLA are all really wanting us to focus more on. And so I think the value to that skills and training is also really great for us as librarians.
All right. Well, we want to thank you to Jasmine, Kathy, and Dave. You guys have been a great panel. We want to thank our audience. Thank you for all the wonderful questions and interaction. And of course, we want to thank Gail Cengage for sponsoring, for helping make today's event possible. So we're going to wrap up on that note. I hope everyone found this event useful and got a lot out of it. And we look forward to seeing you at another event soon. Have a great day, everyone.